Hope you guys have missed my content because this video is going to be 1,000 years long. I guess we can just get this roast to cooking. I can't believe it. After so many months, I'm finally able to sit down and do this. Hi friends, welcome to my new studio. Again. Oh, it's gonna take a lot more coffee to get through this video. You're probably wondering where the hell I've been for the last 8 months now. It's been 8 months now. And as much as this video is going to be an explanation of where I have been for the last 8 months, I will also just own up to the fact that it was a lot of overwhelm, and for that I apologize. I know if you've been here for a while, you know that my schedule is always kind of all over the place. It can change drastically at the drop of a hat, but I was not prepared for it to be this long. And I should have just given you an update, but instead I chose not to because anxiety? I've been struggling more and more lately with social media platforms. Part of me just kind of wants to go away forever, but I also do know that I've missed this so much. A lot has changed. That's what this video is about. This video is about me telling you what's been going on, where I've been, what I've been doing, and what my hopes and dreams are for this channel, because I'm not a quitter. I am a procrastinator, but I'm not a quitter. So for those of you who are still here and are seeing this drop in your subscription feed, hello. I have my notes on the timeline right here, and we're gonna go month by month and get you up to speed on where I've been. And I thought I should just pull this back out again. If you haven't seen my reel, yes, my Instagram reel, that's where I pulled this out for the first time, and I feel like I owe it to Unearthly to pull this out again because they gifted it to me. They are always so kind to me for no good reason. So I'm gonna play with this again while I chat to you all and try not to get too distracted. Also, if you're wondering, where the hell is the studio? Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get into it. Now that you've seen the majority of the backdrop, why don't we just zoom on in and start putting on some makeup. I probably won't be talking too much about the products I'm using in this video because I really want to focus on the timeline. Of course, as always, all the products will be listed down below in the description box as well, but if you want to hear more about my thoughts on the products, go check out the reel. I'm just mixing these two in my hand, the 3-drop Weightless Serum Foundation from Rituel Fille and the Yummy Skin Glow Serum, whatever it's called. So hopefully I'll be able to answer all of your questions as we go along, so hold your questions until the end, please. Of course, as always, you are welcome to leave your questions in the comments and I will do my best to answer all of them. I mean, if any of you are still even around to leave comments, but like, I kind of forgot that there are about 3,000 of you. I don't know. I know that's such a small, infinitesimal number in the grand scheme of things when it comes to YouTube, but also this combination on the skin, like, oh. I'm already rambling, so let's just start back in June of 2023. Yeah, I think the last video you saw of me on the channel, I actually filmed that back in May, but didn't get around to editing and uploading it until June because life was already at that time pretty chaotic. My mirror is so far away, so I'm having a really hard time. So the face might not look pristine, but we'll get through this. We'll get through this together. Back in end of May or early June, this picture perfect afternoon we shared. Do you ever Hansen anyone? No, just me? So just in case you have no idea about my personal life or history, I am an actor, primarily in theater and primarily in musical theater. It's been on and off my full-time job for the last 13 years. It's taken some dives and dips. That's when I started this channel, was when I was really struggling after a very big contract I had coming home, and my life kind of fell apart. Because when you are in theater, ultimately your level of employment is completely out of your control. It can be really scary, especially when your career dips. So having this as an outlet is extremely helpful for me to harness creativity and not feel like I am just sitting around waiting for the next contract to happen. And I discovered that I just really enjoy makeup, and I really enjoy making makeup content, and I really enjoy talking to this little audience I've built. It's something that brings me a lot of joy when I have the time and the energy and the willpower to do it. And of course, the pandemic played a huge role in where I placed my energy. That's where I started to steer most of my focus onto the channel because theater went into a coma, essentially, because people could not gather and we didn't know when we could gather again, so this is all I had. So this platform was a huge saving grace for me. I don't know what I would have done without it, honestly, throughout those years. So as like, you know, a capitalist society would, and we all had to start thinking about going back to work and of course not knowing when theater was actually going to be coming back and when that was going to be a viable source of income again. You know, we had to pivot. I started working in retail again, and that was my life for a few years. I'm already going way off track, but you know, just in case you didn't know this background, I'm trying to like catch people up. 2021 rolls around, I'm kind of finding my footing again in theater. And for the last couple years, I've been diligently working my way back into the industry. God, she's so pale. She's so pale. Also wanting to diversify, going into film, television, and voiceover, getting representation, getting an agent in those fields. And for most of 2023, I struggled to really find a balance between the job that pays my bills, but takes up all of my time, the career I wanted, which was burgeoning, and this channel, which I desperately want to hold on to. All of last year, I was feeling so overwhelmed and very helpless as to how I was going to balance everything. Frustratingly, I can only take so much on at this time, and it's really difficult because I feel this stress and anxiety of like all these people who are relying on me, like my boss, my coworkers, but also my agent, who is wanting to put me forward and wanting me to succeed, and I can't give her my full attention. And working at a small business means that there aren't a lot of people to help you out when you really want to take on an opportunity at the last minute. Increasingly, that was happening more and more. So I knew I had 2 shows coming up for 2023, one of which rehearsal started in May and one of which rehearsal started in August. I also knew that both of these schedules were going to overlap at some point during August. There was about 3 weeks of overlap where I was going to be doing shows every other evening, but also rehearsing 6 days a week, 8-hour days. I knew at that point that being at my retail position was just no longer an option. So I was trying to slowly remove myself from that situation so that they weren't blindsided and so that they weren't going to be SOL when I bounced. All of this to say, this is where I think we left off last June, was in the middle of a lot of chaos. Because also, as if there wasn't enough on my plate, at this time, Daniel and I were planning on moving in together. And long story short, too late, this opportunity to take over the lease of this condo kind of fell into our laps. So we just decided to take it and run, because we were not going to find anything else that was nearly as good of a deal as this. The only problem was move-in was in July. As I'm trying to establish, July was a very busy time for me. At this time, still working retail, we were just going into tech for Matilda, which is the first show of 2023 that I did. Tech is when you spend a week or 2 moving into the theater. It involves really long days. You don't have a life. You don't see your friends. You don't see your family. You just tech. We were going into that time at the same time that Daniel and I were attempting to move out of our individual places and move into a new one together. This means we have twice the amount of stuff that we are trying to consolidate. Also, because apparently I like to torture myself, I decided, because we had the opportunity to, and I've never been able to do this before, I wanted to paint. I decided that before we even moved into the new place that we were going to paint a lot of it. Needless to say, I had a couple of mental breakdowns during this time because I'm already not in the best state of mind because of tech and because of my part-time job and because of all of our crap that's just everywhere. For my obsessive compulsive brain, it was hell on earth. This is about the time I start falling off the YouTube wagon because there's just literally not enough time in the day for me to do anything else. I was still also auditioning for other shows to line up for 2024, which is also crazy to think about, that I even had the wherewithal. July was wild. We opened a show, we had painted everything, we had moved in, somehow we survived. This was a time where I was really hanging on by a thread mentally and physically. I was so tired I would just come home and collapse. And also coming home to absolute chaos was the exact opposite of what I needed for my mental health. I would just come home sometimes and cry because there was just so much stuff everywhere and none of it was organized, and I felt so lost. So lost and so afraid. And of course that does not faze Daniel one iota. He could live anywhere. He could live in any sort of situation and just be able to cope. And if you hadn't noticed by now, I'm not one of those people. We got through it somehow. We organized things started looking better. So we survived July, only to crash headfirst into August, which came with a fresh onslaught of challenges. The first 3 weeks of August would be double duty time, which meant, yes, double paychecks, like so blessed, but also it meant full-time rehearsals for one show, 10 to 6, 6 days a week, and doing a show at night. For Matilda, our show schedule was every other night because there is a second show that goes on at the exact same time, and we alternate nights, which was my saving grace because if we had to do a regular show schedule, which is 8 shows a week, I don't think I would have survived. And the material that I was doing wasn't easy. Matilda for me involved a lot of high intensity dancing and singing, really heavy cardio, really high belting. That alone is exhausting, but having to do that at the same time as singing an incredibly vocally challenging role in the other show. By the way, that show was Little Shop of Horrors. I actually voiced the plant. And for those of you who understand the significance of what I'm about to say, it is a role written for a baritone, and we did not change the keys. I just did everything up the octave.
How'd you like to be a big wheel, dining out for every meal? I'm the plant who can make it real. You're gonna get it. Ooh, I'm your genie, I'm your friend, I'm your willing slave. Take a chance, just feed me in. You know the kind of eats, the kind of red hot treats, the kind of sticky licky sweets I crave.
And it was crazy. I was at my physical and emotional mental limit. I was at my cap. I had zero time and zero energy to do literally anything else. It was wake up, rehearse, show, sleep. Eating somewhere in between those things. Honestly, the last few months have been such a blur that recounting all of this feels like a fever dream. I don't know how I did that. Definitely thought that I was going to perish once or twice, but we make it happen. A lot of credit goes to Daniel for literally carrying me through August and through most of July, let's be real. He has been nothing but unwaveringly supportive. He has cooked the majority of the meals for the majority of the time that we have lived together. I would come home and be absolutely catatonic. He dealt with that like an absolute champ. There is no possible way with my lifespan that I will be able to repay him for all of that. And don't get me wrong, this schedule was merciless, unrelenting, but I also know that like there are people out there who can do that, who can just do 12-hour days, get 5 hours of sleep, and just like wake up and do it all over again and not be phased. And I am in awe of those people, but I am not one of those people. And maybe you're sitting there thinking like,
oh, that's it? That's why you've been gone? Seems like it was just a choice, you know? You just chose not to put time and effort into the channel.
And yeah, I agree. My inner demons were telling me that all the time, that I was just lazy. But I have to remind myself that at some points last year, I was working 2 or 3 jobs at a time. Not to mention I recorded an audiobook last summer as well, on top of everything else. It's on Audible, actually. I have a narrator profile now on Audible, which is unreal. Like, I feel like I crashed through 2023. Like, I'm still reeling. Luckily though, once August hit and I knew I was going to be working full-time and then some in theater, at the very least, I had to take an absence from retail. I gave them my notice, I gave them lots of advance, and we would reconvene in December when I was back from my contract. Matilda finally closes in August. I'm able to focus full-time on Little Shop, which is great because we're going into tech again. And once Little Shop opens in the middle of September, I'm like, okay, great. Now's the time. I can finally get back to filming. And may I remind you that my old studio, my beloved studio, may she rest in peace, was about an hour's commute from my apartment. We built that space because the place I was living at the time just was not conducive to treating YouTube like a job. And I wanted to treat YouTube like a full-time job, so I did. I built this space that I could commute to, that I could dedicate fully to makeup, and it was extremely helpful and beneficial to the channel. We were able to get so much done in that space, and it was crafted specifically for this one purpose, and it just felt so magical. And in the before times when I didn't have so many things going on and I could really solely focus on YouTube, it was so conducive to productivity, this space. But with how my career has been very quickly shifting over the last year, it became harder and harder to get out there. With the move feeling a little bit displaced, I had nowhere to do an ad hoc, jerry-rigged setup like I would sometimes do in my old apartment. We just didn't have the space, I did not have the time, and ultimately my channel suffered. I just kept thinking, once Matilda's closed, once we open Little Shop, I will have some days free. I was thinking at the very least just get a couple of uploads up, you know, in the interim, especially before October hit, which was when we all had to go out to Edmonton and do the second half of this contract. But I had September and I had a little bit of October. I thought, we can do this. And at this point, the guilt I felt accumulating from abandoning the channel for so many months reached a point where I kind of felt too ashamed to update. And then when I almost saw the light at the end of the tunnel, I thought, oh, it's gonna be fine. I've only been gone for a few months. It's happened before. And that was my plan until I lost the studio.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time
crazy to me that I have not told you this until now. But yeah, that space is gone. My mom still lives there. My mom still has the condo, but there is an eviction involved in this story. And it is my mom's very old and dear friend who got rent evicted, which is crazy because she was rent evicted by their mutual friend. I don't know all the gory details. It happened so fast, but my mom's very good friend had to vacate this suite that she'd been living in for a really long time. And she didn't know what to do because rent prices right now are so astronomical that there's no way that she could move anywhere and still afford to live. And my mom was beside herself. She had no idea how this could have possibly happened. It really blindsided them. So my mom did the only thing she could do, and the only thing that she thought was right, which was get a roommate. Essentially, my mom offered for her to move in pretty much right away as soon as she heard the news. Turns out my mom has a heart of gold. Who knew? I'm just kidding. I love you, Mom. I am so proud of my mom for making this decision. It just goes to show how a lot of human beings, when shit hits the fan, when things get really tough, we will be there for our friends. Round of applause for my mom. Let's hear it from Mama Suds. She is the hero Gotham needs and deserves. And you've probably already put two and two together, but that did mean that I had to vacate the spare bedroom. It happened really quickly and I did not have a whole lot of time to mourn the loss of it. Mom needed me to get my stuff out real fast. This space that had been my haven, my creative bat cave for a couple years, just poof, gone. At that point, I definitely thought that that was the end of the channel. But Daniel and I discussed it, as begrudging as he was about this decision, because it did mean that we would have to shift our ideas of what our workspace was going to look like. He ultimately let me completely redesign this studio. So initially this room was going to be our office and a self-tape studio. As actors who have to send in a lot of self-tapes, we needed livable at-home workspaces. We were gonna paint this back wall blue, which is the color of the backdrop that you use for self-tapes. And that was about the amount of thought I put into the space because I had no plans to leave the studio. I had no plans to move all of my earthly makeup belongings to my home. And if it hadn't been for Mom's friend moving in, I would probably still have everything there, just kind of collecting dust. I didn't want to admit it, but the studio wasn't practical for me anymore. But it felt like it was going to be such an insurmountable task to move it all here. Plus, I know Daniel didn't want this to become the YouTube space. And I wanted Daniel to feel like he had a space of his own because I am so particular when it comes to decorating. And I knew I had lots of very specific ideas about how I wanted this apartment to look. So I wanted this room to be for him, you know? So that is initially why I considered shutting down the channel for the time being. But because Daniel is an actual saint, he reluctantly relented and we started negotiating and reimagining what the studio was going to look like. And because I'm also incredibly particular about how I want my YouTube setup to look and feel like, this room had to undergo a complete overhaul, which I decided was going to be my project when I returned home from Edmonton. On that note, let's zoom in a little bit further and start doing some eyeshadow. I will say this makeup is not the greatest. I am very distracted trying to get through this timeline and the makeup has suffered. Also, my skin being a mess is not helping. And if you're asking me at this point,
Maddie, don't you think it is a bit ambitious to dive into such an enormous project the second you touch down from Edmonton?
you would be right. Our time in Edmonton, October to November, was a whirlwind. It was crazy, and because we got really close as a cast and we really enjoyed spending time with each other, we tried to fill every waking moment with activities and events and late night hangs. It just felt like every waking moment of that half of the contract was us as a cast trying to spend as much time together as humanly possible. I think back on that time a lot and I just think, wow, we really loved each other. I mean, that is what you hope for, spending 4 consecutive months with a group of people. I came home absolutely spent, and it culminated in me getting COVID the second I touched down. During the final weeks of our show, I was so paranoid because I could not perform that show sick. My vocal cords were so tired. You know, you see the light at the end of the tunnel and your body just starts to gallop toward the finish line. I could feel myself starting to break down. So I think it was sheer force of will to stay healthy until we closed. I just want a quick looky-loo at this. What are we gonna do? Look at that green. It matches my sweater. And also this chartreuse. We love a chartreuse. So this is a lie. I did not get COVID the second I touched down. I got COVID directly after doing a photo shoot for the next show that I'm going to be in. And that photo shoot happened literally the day after I touched down. So there was no reprieve. I am grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I have to repeat this to myself over and over and over again. I am so lucky to know that there is work for me in 2024. And I'm excited about my future in voiceover. I'm excited about film and television. I'm just excited about what this new chapter of my life could be. The possibilities are endless. And ultimately, by December, I do decide not to go back to retail, which was not the plan. My plan was to go back for at least the month of December because making a little bit of money for the holidays was a good idea. But the exhaustion that I felt when I came home was so all-encompassing. I just couldn't imagine going back to a customer-facing position during the holidays, which is the worst time. If you know, you know. I knew this was a bit of a gamble, but I made an educated risk to not return to retail, offer to be on call if they needed a shift covered. If, you know, there was an emergency, you can call me, I'll be there, but I was not gonna go back on the schedule. And even though this wasn't the plan, I think my boss and my manager kind of had a feeling this was gonna happen. So they were incredibly generous. They gave me their blessing to go off and pursue my dreams. So I dedicated the last of 2023 to just simply recharging. I slept a lot, but there was still some level of chaos because it's December and it's Christmas. Plus, when we got home, there was just so many shows to see. All of our friends were doing Christmas shows and we just spent all of December trying to schedule our lives around every single one of them. What a blast seeing all of our friends be stars and pursuing their dreams and just kicking ass and taking names. I'm so proud of this community and I love being a part of it. I had very ambitious, lofty goals to finish the studio by the end of 2023. Did not happen. Not even close to happening. First of all, I had to repaint the entire room because if this space had to function as a YouTube studio, a self-tape studio, and an office, it had to be not only functional, but it also had to be a place that I wanted to spend time in. And at this time, when I came home, this space was not much more than just a pile of things that I did not have the mental capacity to sift through. So it sat there. Also, because we are masochists and have no self-control, we decided we wanted to host New Year's. I'm so proud of this apartment. I put so much work into this place and I want to show it off. And I also want this place to be a hub. I want this place to be a hub for the community, for my friends, for all of us to just gather. That's what we realized. We realized we were centrally located, that we could be like the hangout spot, which has always been a dream of mine. I don't really know what my point was. Oh, yes. So against our better judgment, we hosted New Year's, which was amazing. So even though I was unemployed, December felt very chaotic, very hectic, full of love, full of family, got to see lots of my friends, had a great time, but still haven't fully recovered from closing the show. Definitely feeling some post-show blues. And so I just did my best to try and listen to my body and recuperate, you know, and try not to beat myself up about it because I have already been beating myself up quite a fair bit about being away from the channel this long. In fact, I've been away for so long that YouTube actually took away my ad revenue partnership. We'll see how easy it is to get that back, but that's gone. New Year's rolls around. My resolutions are spend more time with family and friends because 2023 was a bit of a lonely year. My other resolution for 2024 was to get back to YouTube, finish the studio, start filming. Whenever I'm absent, whenever I leave the channel for an extended period of time, I always miss it. That feeling never goes away, and so I know it's just got to be a part of my life. But how do we do that in a healthy, sustainable way? And here's where I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that bringing the studio to my home with a separate room that I can close the door on, I think it's possible. And yes, my schedule will ebb and flow. It will ramp up and it will ramp down. And as much as I would love YouTube to have turned into a source of income, with the way that my life has turned out and with the things that I want to accomplish, and with, you know, with my limitations of needing to pay rent, my focus does have to shift from time to time. But what I realize is that leaving YouTube behind for now is just not an option. I miss it too much. In order to be not depressed, I need to have a creative outlet that I have control over that isn't dependent on someone else's judgment of me and my abilities. Like, yes, judgment does play a role in how many views you get and how many subscribers you have and ultimately the success of your content. But I can can still create it. And no one's gatekeeping me from uploading a video. That fact was important at the inception of this channel, and it is still important today. So like it or lump it, I think you are more or less stuck with me. But content creation is constantly shifting and changing. Like, I have a hard time keeping up with it. What I do love though is that YouTube is generally quite consistent. I know everyone says that YouTube is dying, YouTube is dead, but I don't think everyone out there has fallen victim to the shortening of the attention span. I find myself consistently going back to YouTube and using that as my primary source of entertainment. I stopped using TikTok because I felt like if I went on that app, I would be on there for 3 hours. I get lost. I get lost in the app, and suddenly 3 hours later, I'm like, I'm still in bed and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So when I want to unwind, I honestly gravitate towards long form content still. I think there are other people who have come to the realization that I have, and maybe my content doesn't cater to Gen Z. That's okay. Does that mean I will never make short form content? Probably not. Like, I think that I will have to if I want to keep up with the algorithm. Also, I think it's a good challenge for me to try and condense my bloviating into 1 to 4 minute snippets. I'm going to experiment a little bit and see what people like and what people don't. So I'll definitely want some feedback on Instagram and also on here. What you want more of, what you want less of, just any and all feedback. I need to hear it. And if your feedback is get a new camera, I know. This is really pretty, by the way. I've just been kind of blending for the last like 30 minutes and I love it. It's really pretty. God, Unearthly Cosmetics is probably also wondering where the hell I was. I'm really looking forward to creating content again. I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys. Be that as it may, I'm a little self-conscious about what people want from me anymore. Not only was I just physically unable to come back because of how exhausted I was also deeply afraid that my type of content was obsolete. What if people just don't want makeup on YouTube anymore? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm so far removed from what makeup content has become in the last year. I look at TikTok influencers and I feel incredibly out of my depth. What they do is just not my style. It's just not for me. Even when I am toning it down, I am above all else a bit of a maximalist. I love color. I love eyeshadow. That was the makeup aesthetic that was trending and popular at the time that I discovered it. So as much as my style has definitely evolved over the years, I don't think I ever want to put eyeshadow brushes down. You know what I mean? And I'm also aware that makeup maximalism hasn't completely disappeared either. So many of the people I follow still are incredibly colorful, vibrant. I'm also not a fan of overgeneralization of anything. I think people kind of forget that they are viewing things in a vacuum, that they are spoon-fed algorithmically what they want to see. I think people forget that not everyone's For You page or not everyone's feed looks the same. So when I hear someone say like, oh, that style of makeup is dead, no one does that anymore, to me that sounds more like that style of artistry just isn't being fed into your algorithm anymore because of your age, because of your demographic, because of the content that you react to. And yes, of course, obviously there are general trends. The internet is so big. I think people's audiences just get more specific, more narrowed down. Like so many other things in the world, the internet is not a monolith. There's room on platforms for everyone, for every type of creator, for every type of artist. There's enough of this pie to go around is what I'm saying. With all of that being said, I think I'm just gonna keep doing me. You know, I'm gonna keep doing what feeds my creative brain. And I know that out there, it will resonate with some people. Be that as it may, I am not gonna turn around and contradict myself. I actually do wanna hear from you what you wanna see. What would interest you for me to explore? I've got a couple of ideas. I think we're just gonna do crisp today. I think it'll look really pretty just on its own. Using some Glimmer Grasp just to stay on theme with Unearthly Cosmetics here. I love the texture of this stuff. It is so sticky. I don't have nails right now, so putting on shimmers is so easy for me. Oh yeah. Stop. I want to hear from you. What do you want to see? Do you want more deep dives into palettes? I'm still down to do palette potentials. I also still have a couple of ideas percolating. Speaking of TikTok and TikTok influencers, I had this kind of loose idea on a series. I thought it might be interesting to kind of gather all of those flash in the pan trends in makeup in the year 2023 and kind of unpacking them, delve into where the trend originated from, because most of the makeup trends that happen on TikTok, it's stuff we've seen before. It's not new. There really is nothing new under the sun when it comes to makeup aesthetics. Things always circle back around eventually. So I had this thought of like, maybe we can explore those trends, see how far back we can trace the cycle of that trend, the evolution of latte girl makeup. So that was something that was kind of rattling around in my brain. I don't know if that would be interesting to you, but let me know. Also, there are definitely brands that I want to explore still. I still have never owned even one item from from Kimchi Chic Beauty, and they have this enormous display of kimchi at my local London Drugs. I kind of just want to do a full face of kimchi because it's there, because I'm curious. There's also a part of me that would love to revisit brands that were popular like 5 years ago, kind of as a where are they now? Just kind of check in with them, being like, you know, like, how is Urban Decay doing? They were brands that I never explored, even in their heyday. Also, some gremlin part of my brain really wants to go back and see what Too Faced is up to. Like, yes, the rational part of my brain is telling me not to give them any of my money, but curiosity might just get the better of me. Every time I walk past one of those displays, I just think, why are you still here? Who is your customer base? Who is still paying your rent for Sephora? I just want to know. I'm so curious. God, part of me wants to do a ColourPop haul just to see what the hell they're up to these days. That took me nearly a century, but I think we're finally done on the eyeshadow front. This palette's beautiful. They've had a couple of releases that I did not get my hands on, and I'm regretting it. There was a whole collection that was centered around like Venus flytraps, and I was just like, the crossover, like, what a missed opportunity. Editing me is gonna have one hell of a time turning this into a coherent thread. Also, I'm very painfully aware that my makeup collection is quite outdated. It holds a lot of things that aren't even sold anymore that are now discontinued, because nowadays makeup gets discontinued so much sooner than it used to. So it is frustrating when things that I'm using are things that you can't even go out and get anymore. I'm very aware that it is so unrealistic of me to keep up with the product brand release cycles, but I think I can do a better job of using makeup that is currently in production. With that being said, I would love to know, what do y'all use right now? What are your ride or dies? Are you leaning drugstore? Are you still making Sephora trips? Are you still hitting that rouge status? Are we luxury girlies? Are we now disillusioned at even the mere concept of luxury? I would love to do like a full face of like your faves. Oh God, this is why I don't do lashes on camera. This is stressful. God, I haven't put on a full lash in a minute, and I am bad at it. Do I even know how to do makeup anymore? All right, I'm sick of you guys being this close, so I'm gonna zoom out and put on a lip. I just wanted to look at my studio again because I'm really, really stinking proud of it. God, it took us forever. So please appreciate the studio. We put so much fucking work into it, and I'm really, really proud of how it turned out. I mean, we have spatial limitations, so that was definitely a challenge. It is certainly gonna take some getting used to looking at this in the monitor as opposed to my old studio. And watching old videos is gonna be a little bit bittersweet now. But I had the choice to take this loss as an opportunity to reimagine the space. Not only am I a maximalist in my makeup aesthetics, I am also a maximalist in my design aesthetics, which is weird coming from someone who's pretty obsessive compulsive, but I just love the look of artfully curated clutter. I'm a sucker for a collage wall, I am a sucker for tchotchkes, and I am a sucker for a good curated shelf.
Y'all?
This was empty when I started filming. I just had to switch memory cards because that's how long I've been rattling on. So we better wrap this up. What a way to return to YouTube, am I right? Oh, that lip line is crazy. She is overlined for the gods. Going in with Juice, lip gloss from Unearthly. I love this lip gloss formula though. Oh my God. Okay, now we're gonna go in with Ivory because I want a little shimmery moment. Ooh, feels like I haven't done this in 1,000 years. Some of this feels like riding a bike and some of it doesn't. Let's spray her down. My hair's in the Velcro stage right now, and I don't often do this, but I'm just kind of sick of staring at these spots. I used to do this in every video. Honestly, I think I stopped just because I got lazy. And I may be out of practice, but at least I know that I would get a vicious thorough roasting if I forgot this step. All right, folks, that is where I'm gonna call it for tonight. I've been filming for going on 4 hours, I think. I've missed this and you so much. I'm also really sorry for not just throwing an update out. I wanted to just come back and come back ready. And I'm so proud of what me and Daniel have built in here. It is such an amazing space to spend time in. If I was gonna lose my beloved space, I had to ensure that the next one was going to be just as conducive to creativity. And I think we did it. I did a lot of talking today at you, so I want you to join in on the conversation. Please give me your feedback, give me your thoughts. Oh God, I wonder how difficult this video is going to be to edit. Hopefully it's coherent. Hopefully it's not a huge drag and a total bummer. Hopefully that catches you guys up on where I've been. In short, my life for the time being has fundamentally changed as far as work goes. I'm sure there will be setbacks in the future, but I'm looking forward to coming back to this and for this channel to be home base again. So I'm gonna head out. I'm going to turn off this camera and then just shuffle off to my kitchen. Before I forget, thank you Unearthly Cosmetics for sending this my way. I know I've been absent. Y'all are extremely supportive of me, so I just want to thank you. My makeup collection would be so boring without you. I do have an affiliate link with Unearthly Cosmetics. It is in the description box down below. If you use it, I get a kickback. Shout out to the MVPs who have been using it while I've been away. Y'all are the real ones. God, how do I do this again? Before I go, please let me rattle off the spiel to you. Here are the many ways you can help out my channel. Give this video a big thumbs up. You can comment down below what you thought of the video, what you thought of this saga. You can subscribe. Please subscribe. I would love it if you would join us. Any and all engagement with this video is crucial to its success in the algorithm, so if you have a few spare seconds, please engage with this video. You can follow me on other social media, i.e. you can follow me on Instagram. I will leave that right there. And if you made it to the end of this video, you are loved by me. And with that, folks, please stay safe, wash your hands, and I will see you in the next one, which hopefully won't be 8 months from now. I promise it won't be. I promise, I promise. Oh my God, you guys don't even believe me anymore, do you? That's okay, I will earn back your trust. Bye!